again, the mistake that I see many teachers make is they think their pension is going to carry them through retirement. And that is a fallacy. Your pension is wonderful, but with inflation, especially what we have just encountered right now, like 10% inflation, like your pension is never going to keep up with that.
Welcome to the Teacher Money Show, the podcast dedicated to helping teachers navigate your unique financial challenges and unlock your financial superpowers. I'm your host, Shaun Morgan, a full-time teacher. That's right, I teach every day just like you, and personal financial coach. And I'm here to help every teacher, whether you're a seasoned teacher looking for fresh insights or a new educator navigating your first paycheck, to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither I nor my guests are engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should not act upon this information without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. I'm very excited to have Rose Mendonca here on the show. Rose's mission is to provide comprehensive support and guidance in navigating the complexities of retirement planning with a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by educators. She offers personalized courses and coaching sessions to demystify concepts like pension plans, loan forgiveness, and 403B. Through a combination of expertise, community support, and practical solutions, her website and brand, Teacher Talks Money, is not just a service, it's a partnership in building a brighter financial future. Rose, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, have an opportunity to speak with you about financial freedom for teachers.
I'm so excited to have you, and it's such an important topic. But before we get to that, I want to build your credibility, because you are just a rock star, and I think that the teachers need to know that. So can you tell us about your journey in education and getting into this personal financial space for educators?
Yes, I'd love to. Like you, I'm a teacher too. I've been a teacher for 30 years. I am a school counselor now, but I still have teaching as part of that. And I also teach at a university. I teach financial wellness to undergrads. But I did spend the first 20 years of my career as a high school teacher. So teaching English and social studies and actually financial literacy to seniors at some point along that way. So I've been a teacher for a very long time. I got excited or into this financial literacy for myself first as a teacher, actually way back when I first started teaching in Benjamin Banneker Academy in New York City. They had sent me off to learn how to teach entrepreneurship to students. And then kind of a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should start my own business. And so then I actually started Lighthouse Learning Center in New York City, many, many years ago. And I made enough money from that venture to put the down payment on my house. And so that was like the first step that like opened me up to all of this. I really didn't, I always knew that teachers had a pension, but you also have all those voices of like, oh, teachers don't make a lot of money, which is true. We don't make a lot of money. I think the first year when I started teaching, I made $23,000 a year. Obviously, that's not what I make today. But, it's true. Teachers don't make a lot of money, and we're certainly not paid the kind of education we need to have. We're not paid our worth, if you will, by any means. But with that said, it's still possible to build financial wealth as an educator. And that's what I started to do from that point forward. I started to read, I started to educate myself about how this happens. But I was teaching for 6 years before I'd ever heard of a 403B, before I've ever heard of a Roth IRA or anything like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a process. And, my goal now, being in this space, is I want to help teachers and help to accelerate their growth and their learning if I can.
Yeah, I love that. I love how first of all, you weren't an expert very first year that you were a teacher, right? It took time. You had to learn about it and slowly grow there. And 30 years later, you are now able to give back to other teachers and try and help them on their journey. I think that's really powerful. And if we can get more and more teachers started earlier and earlier on their financial independence journey, it's going to just have even greater ramifications for other teachers. And then, of course, when we educate teachers, when we help teachers, when we lift teachers, we lift their students as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I connected with you via Instagram. If you want to connect with Rose, Instagram's a great place to connect with her there. And something really stuck out to me that you had talked about on your account that I really want to talk to you about today and just dive in really deep on it. And it's building a wealth mindset. Now, I always talk about, having a growth mindset with your money, but I really like this because wealth is an acronym, and acronyms are one of my favorite things. I think acronyms are really great. And I think you kind of have to like acronyms as a teacher because you have to memorize so many of them.
Yeah.
It's really powerful when you can use those things to remember steps or remember a process. And it stands for write down what you want, envision your future, affirm your desire, listen to your inner voice, take action, and hold the vision. I wanted to just talk through each of these. So let's start with the first one. Write down what you want. What do you mean by that? Why is that important?
Well, as a teacher, right, I always have my students write down goals. And even for myself, I feel like when I write something down, it's more likely to get done. So that's where that comes from. And I just think that that's how we get started, right? We need to actually see it physically on a piece of paper. What is it we're trying to accomplish? And I think as teachers, we do that all the time, right? We have to have lesson plans, we have everyday to-do lists, to get all those things in that we have to do. Well, I'm just saying you need to do it for your finances as well, because what happens, I think, a lot of time with teachers in particular, because we have so many things on our plate, the finances fall to the wayside. And like you said, the earlier teachers get started saving and investing, the better for them to take advantage of compound interest and really build a nice nest egg for themselves later on.
Another great reason why I just love talking to other teachers who are in the space. So you're able to compare it to a lesson plan. This is something we all know, right?
Okay, yep.
Your lesson plan, it's not going to work that way. Let's be honest, right? How many of us have ever had a perfectly executed lesson plan? If you're raising your hand, probably lying, right?
Yep.
But you have that goal, right? You have that students will be able to, retirement will be like, whatever you want to call your goal, and writing that down helps you get there instead of wandering aimlessly along the path. I think that's absolutely essential. Your second point, E, envision your future. What is that? Why is that different than writing it down? What does that look like, and why is that important?
Well, I mean, they're connected, but envisioning is like, creating that space in your mind about, if you can accomplish whatever goal you have, like, what's it going to look like? What are your days going to look like? Creating that picture in your mind really helps you then to take the steps that you need to get there, right? I think it was Walt Disney that said that, right? If you can envision anything, you can bring it to life. I mean, and that's what we need to do, right? We need to dream a little, if you will. You have to dream, you have to create that picture, and then you go after it.
I think that is very important to have it in your head. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, you might be able to see where I'm pointing right back here. There's a little whiteboard back there in that corner. That's where I wrote down goals once, and you can see how effective that is for me at the moment. Yeah, there's something about writing it down and seeing it. They do go hand in hand, right? If you have it written down in a place where you can see it, that can remind you to envision it in your head and hold that motivation in your head, right? A written down goal that you forget is not helpful, but it's something that is like tangible in your brain. It's like, I want that. That is a really powerful motivation. It's your why. People talk about this all the time, starting with your why and having that instead of being like, oh, I want to something ridiculous. I want to own a Bugatti someday, right? That's absolutely like, I don't think any of us are going to get there, but you want that. Well, why, right? You're not going to do the really hard work it's going to take to get to that if you don't have a good reason behind it. So I think that those go hand in hand as well for that reason. So that's absolutely huge. Okay, A, affirm your desire. I think we know that affirmation is important, but why is this on this list, and how does that relate to the others that you've been talking about?
Well, I think you just touched upon it, right? You have to keep reminding yourself, and as a teacher, I love affirmations, things that help our students, right? You were saying growth mindset, right? Well, there are affirmations for growth mindset to remind them that just because you got it wrong this time doesn't mean you'll get it wrong the next time, right? This is a process. This is, we're learning, that's what human beings do. We learn from our mistakes, and we have to keep moving forward in order to experience any success in life. We're going to fail. That's just part of the process. This is all a process. So affirming your desire, again, it's connected to envisioning your future, right? You've envisioned this future, but you have to keep reminding yourself, affirming it to yourself, saying it to yourself, because that's what's going to get you to take the action that you need and actually to create that reality for yourself down the road. And like you said, it takes time. It's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen in 1 year, right? You have to have that long term. And in order to do that, you have to keep affirming it to yourself so that it stays with you. And the actions that you're taking on the daily, you might not think that they're connected, but they are connected, you know?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely huge. And I think there's two parts to affirmation, at least from my point of view. There's the I can do it, and then I deserve it as well, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
can, achieve a comfortable retirement, and I deserve that comfortable retirement, right? I think that one of the big problems that a lot of teachers encounter is this, like, I'm supposed to be poor, I'm not supposed to accumulate wealth because I'm a teacher, right? There's that mental track that just gets played in our brain and outside, like we hear it constantly. um but you deserve it, right? You deserve to have a financially independent life. So just I think that is a huge part of that, making sure that you believe that you can and should achieve that goal that you want.
I agree wholeheartedly, because I hear that all the time. Teachers will say, "Well, I don't teach for the money." There's so many things but yes, you do. You do teach for the money, because if you didn't get paid, most likely you wouldn't be volunteering your time 30 hours, 40 hours, 60 hours a week, to teach other people's children. So you do teach for the money. It's about what you do with that money and how you get that money to work for you down the line, that matters. So yeah, I hear that stuff all the time. Or there will be teachers, that will drive really nice cars. Like I'll see teachers that drive a Mercedes or a BMW. And some of them will feel guilty about it. And it's like, why would you feel guilty about it? Or other people will say things about it, like, how do teachers drive such nice cars? It's like, well, because it's about what you do with your money, what you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, in my elementary school, I have a very vivid memory of this. The nicest car in the parking lot. It was like a Martin Astor or something like that. It was like a really nice sports car. It was driven by the lunch lady. And it's just like, you know,
There
that's
you
what
go.
she wanted. Okay. That's what she was paying for. Like, so that's
Mhm.
what she got, right? So like you just
Yeah.
need to realize that what you use your money on is up to you, right? And what you affirm that your goal and your desire is, like, you can get it, right? You can afford it if you make that your goal and your priority. And if you put your energy toward that. And I think that's a huge thing to remember. I really like this next one, L, listen to your inner voice. And I think that's a very unique piece of advice in financial, literacy. Can you just explain what you mean by that and why that's so important?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we have an inner voice. We have that voice that talks to us. And I think, especially along this kind of journey where teachers are not always paid a lot of money, especially in the beginning of their career, we have to listen to our inner voice say, I deserve that. Like you said, I deserve that. I can take action. I can change my personal situation. I don't have to be paralyzed by the student loans I took out when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I can find a way out of this, right? And that inner voice will help you. If you listen to that inner voice will help you to take, again, the action that you need to get to where you want to be. and not get bogged down in other people's negativity, or even the negativity sometimes that inner voice might say to us, right? We have to override that to keep going.
Yeah, so I like how you brought back that other point at the end. So there's listening to your inner voice doesn't mean always taking the advice of your inner voice. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know what it's saying, right? You need to be conscious of it and then engage with that. But I also think it's important to realize that your inner voice is usually, unless it's engaging in that negative self-talk, gonna be right. Like we have just this innate, like that gut is what people often call it. And
Mm-hmm.
when your gut says, don't invest in that, it's probably right. Okay. And
Yeah.
even if it's wrong, following your gut, and it's right well, you're wrong 1 time out of 10, but you're right 9 times out of 10 about not investing in that or yes, investing in that. Those are pretty good odds usually. So I'd say that following your gut or listening to your inner voice and those types of things is really, important because you know what your values are, you know what you want, and your inner voice usually leads you to that. And when you override that is usually when you get into trouble. And I've had plenty of experience overriding my inner voice. So
we,
uh,
we all do. You're not alone in that. But you're right. We do have that intuition, if you want to call it that. We really do. And when we look back on it, we're like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that.
and when you look back, the great thing about looking back is you can be like, oh, and I knew beforehand I shouldn't have done that. Like I remember distinctly the don't do that, but then
Yep.
I did it anyway, right? And so
Mhm.
it's just it's there, and the better we get at listening to that, I think the more smoothly our life will run.
Absolutely.
Um, the next one, T, is take action. What action are we taking? Why should we do this? Why does it matter?
I mean, I think in many ways, this is the most important one because you can do all the other ones, but if you don't actually put any of this into motion, you'll just be spinning your wheels, right? So you have to take the steps to create wealth, right? The steps are you need to set up a 403b, you need to, or if you have a 457, you have to set that up. You have to contribute to it every paycheck. You have to set up that consistency. So you have to take the actions. You have to keep monitoring it. And when you get a raise, you increase it, right? You have to make sure that that money's not just sitting in that account, that it's actually being invested in, hopefully low fee index funds. So the action is the really important thing, like calling up Fidelity and opening the Roth IRA or Vanguard, whatever brokerage house you want to use. I don't care. But it's because I feel like this is what happens to a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard too, right? They'll sign up with whatever representative comes into the teacher's room. And I even did this. And this is one of the reasons I actually got started on this path was because I signed up with EXA. And they actually weren't even called EXA then, but they were whatever they were called. And they're one of the worst 403b providers, as I'm sure you know, right? Very high fees. But they're also the people that go into the schools. And so young teachers don't know that they're not supposed to sign up with them. They think they think the school is recommending in their mind. They think, well, the school let them in, so that must be who I sign up with, right? And they don't even know that they have Fidelity available to them, and they might not, but they don't even know there are other providers, is what I'm trying to say, that they could set that up with. But still, for me, when I look back at my journey, yes, I signed up with EXA, yes, that was a mistake, but it led me to Fidelity, right? So, but it's about taking action. If I hadn't taken any action, then I wouldn't have the wealth that I have today, right? So it's really important to, yes, you dream it, but then you have to actually do the action steps to make that reality true.
Amen. Okay, everything you said is a grand amen. I love that. Taking action is so important, and it's important to realize how easy it actually is. Like we get so overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, I have to make all of these decisions. Well, guess what? By not making a decision, you're making a decision, and that's the worst decision you can make. Like not investing your money is actually worse than investing with AXA. Like
Yeah,
it
exactly. You're
really
right.
it hurts me to say because
Yep.
AXA is the worst. Like I don't want to bad talk anybody, but seriously, there's a reason why they've been sued, and there's just yeah. Side tangent. they got a hold of my personal phone number and email somehow, and then started sending me a message saying, your school district wants you to invest. Like, very, very shady. Not sure how
Yeah,
they got my personal information. Not sure,
yeah.
why they feel like it's okay to pretend like the school district is endorsing them specifically. Just, if they come knocking on your door, please run away. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, that's why BYs, right? 403 BYs got started. I'm sure you're familiar with their
yeah,
nonprofit organization. Um, I mean, if you have an entire organization that is created to educate people about 403Bs, you know something's up.
yeah. Yeah, it's a real problem. We've talked about that, multiple times on the show already. So I don't want to get bogged down there. But
Yeah.
getting back to taking action, like I said, it's easy
Yeah.
to take some action. Doing something is better than doing nothing. And
Mhm.
if you just do like in like 30 minutes, like that's probably even too much. Once a month, just to check on your finances, make some moves, do some investments, set up automations. That's all it really takes to be on the right path with your finances. It's really a very small amount of time commitment, but you have to do something. If you're not doing anything, then you're just gonna flounder.
You just set it and forget it. I forget who told me this, but I've always remembered it. You set it and you forget it, until obviously you're not going to forget it forever, but the automation is key, right? And especially for young teachers, like I'll hear from them sometimes like, oh, I don't have the money. I have so much debt. I have student loans. I have this, I have that. But, when I first started investing, I just did $50 a week. 50, you won't even miss that because it's pre-tax. So it's like you won't even miss it. And it's so important to get started with that $50 because it really does grow, and as you get raises, then you go to 75 a week or you double it, you go to 150. You know what I mean? I mean, today I do 500. But again, back in 94 when I started teaching, that's not what I was contributing, So like it's a process, but the important thing is that you have to get in the game. You got to get in the game to take advantage of that compound interest and have any money in there, buying shares of stock. And, so that's what I try to tell teachers, if you don't even have $50, then start with 25. I don't care what you start with, but it's about getting them, start buying and building your portfolio. That's what it is. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to start.
Right. I love it. It's like building a muscle. You just got to start somewhere, right? Even if you can only lift the 2 pounders,
Yep.
you're going to need to start somewhere to get going along.
Yep.
Okay. Last one of the wealth acronym is hold the vision. Tell us about holding the vision.
Also very important because, like I said, this is probably going to be a 20, 30-year span that you're going to be in saving and investing and trying to create this nest egg for yourself to support your pension. Again, what the mistake that I see many teachers make is they think their pension is going to carry them through retirement, and that is a fallacy. Your pension is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I love that I'm going to get free money. Well, not free money because I've worked for it, but it seems like free money, right? That money's going to show up in my account every month when I retire. That's awesome. Most people don't get that, right? So I'm never going to, poo-poo that. That's awesome. It's great. But with inflation, especially what we have just encountered right now, like 10% inflation, like your pension is never going to keep up with that. So that's why you need to have these other investments to carry you through, especially for women who tend to live into their 80s and 90s, right? Imagine if you retire at 57 or 60 and you live 30 more years, your pension, you're going to lose buying power with that pension every year as you get older. So there really needs to be, you have to have other sources of income besides your pension in order for you to live the kind of retirement that you want to. And also, just quickly touch upon healthcare costs, right? We all know that your healthcare costs are going to skyrocket as you get older. And that's another thing that younger teachers don't tend to think about. And I myself, I didn't think about it either. But now that I'm into my 50s, it's starting to like come more into view, because I see people around me who are getting sick. You know, they get illnesses, things are happening. So um, all those reasons hold the vision, because this is going to take time, but you'll be so happy when you get to that point, and you'll be able to retire when you want, not when someone else tells you to. Because the other thing that I see too, I don't know if you see this, but I see people working a lot longer than they should, not by choice, but because they have debts, or they, took out second mortgages to put their kids through school, or they made financial decisions that have now put them in a position where they have to teach into their 60s and sometimes 70s. And I'm not sure that that's great.
No, yeah. There was a substitute teacher who was so old, and the last school I taught at, he was so old that he couldn't walk from one classroom to the next because they like move him around in the passing period. He couldn't keep up, but he had to keep teaching because it's what he had to do. And you don't want to be that teacher, right? You want to be able to be done. You can sub if you want to, but you don't want to have to, and that is a huge deal. Okay, I know we're
Yeah.
coming up on a hard and fast deadline for you for
Yeah.
time, so I want to just quickly hit a few more quick questions. I
Sure.
noticed that in the wealth acronym, you do not have save or invest or take a risk analysis or something like that. Why are those things not on the list?
Well, they don't really fit with the letters, to tell you the truth. but but obviously, in order to build, I mean, there are many ways to build wealth. You know what I mean? Um, it's funny, when I was younger, I used to sell shoes, and I used to sell shoes, and that's a commission based, right? In a department store. And there was a gentleman there who used to have his own business years ago prior. And he used to tell me all the time, he's like, Rose, there's a million ways to make $1 million. He's like, you just have to find that one way that works for you. And I always remembered that. And so obviously saving and investing, right? You can become a millionaire through saving and investing. You can become a millionaire through real estate. You can become a millionaire through starting your own business and being very successful. So there are a million ways to make $1 million. But obviously, for teachers who love teaching, want to teach, the quickest way for them is going to be saving and investing.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And we're talking about, building the mindset capable of saving and investing. If you do these steps, the wealth steps, regardless of the path you choose, they'll help you with saving and investing. They'll help you with building a business. They'll help you with, getting to real estate. They'll help you with any of these things because you'll have the foundation ready to handle those things. And I really love how your list focuses on getting yourself ready more than the mechanics of becoming wealthy. Okay, the last two questions I ask all of my guests: what is your number one tip for teachers to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life?
I think my number one tip is get started. You need to take action. You need to, educate yourself, talk to other teachers, find out what your school district offers, understand your pension, understand the rules and regulations around your pension. But I think, like I said, the number one tip is start, right? Like, don't allow the fact that you have $20,000 in credit card debt or $100,000 in student loan debt deter you, because I feel that it deters people. They think, well, first I have to get rid of my debt, then I'll start. But that's, I think, the wrong way to think about it. And we've already covered this, right? You need that time and money in the market to take advantage of that compound interest. So it's really about rearranging how you think about it and making that savings, that $50 or that $25 or $100, making it a priority and sending that money into your 403B or 457 or your Roth IRA, wherever you want to put it, but put it somewhere, because it'll be so much more valuable to you in the end. So that's my number one tip, is just get started,
I love it.
whether it's reading a book, but whatever it is, because again, like ourselves, like our stories, right? It was a process. This didn't happen overnight. It's a process, but you have to start down that path.
I love it. Just get started. Okay, last question. How can teachers get in contact with you?
They can get in contact me on my website, teachertalksmoney.com, and they can also on Instagram at teachertalksmoney.
Thank you so much, Rose, for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I'll talk to you another time. It'll be great.
Yeah, thank you so much. My pleasure. Nice meeting you.
If you'd like to come on the podcast for coaching, to share an expert opinion, or just to talk about a topic you think is relevant, I'd love to talk to you. Just fill out the form at teachermoneyshow.com/guest. I look forward to talking with you.